Welcome to Incredible Idaho. I'm Wayne Walker. Tonight we begin our show by going to summer camp. You remember those days. Fishing, organized games, hot dogs burned over campfires, and the most important essential of that all-American tradition, ghost stories at night. It's an eerie sound, and within those lonely, ragged notes is the essence of everything that's wild and untamed. But what you just heard was not really a wolf. It was a human, teaching other humans how to communicate with one of Idaho's wild residents.
I don't think I did.
Okay, so maybe that sounded more like a bunch of frustrated Chicago Bear fans than a wild wolf. But let's give this group another chance.
There ain't no wolves gonna mess with this pack.
These howling campers are your children's teachers. Each is a certified wild teacher, someone who has completed a one-credit graduate course called Project Wild, then wildly signed up for more, this week-long camping workshop called Project Wild 2. Here they'll earn 3 graduate credits and spend a week learning about wildlife in the wilds of Idaho.
1, Carol, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You guys go with Greg Lazinski.
Tonight's subject is, you guessed it, Idaho's wolves. Each group of teachers will drive to a different area here in Bear Valley on the edge of the wilderness and attempt to get a responding howl from a wild wolf.
We've designed a class where we have biologists come in and talk about an animal that they've really studied, and then we go out in the field and habitat and look at the habitat for the animal. We don't always see the animal, but it gives the teachers a hands-on experience with it.
We'll do it 2 times, and then we'll just wait to hear what happens. And then after that, we'll wait a few more minutes, and we'll try it again.
The night's activities drew no response from Idaho's wild wolves, but ghost stories are just a small part of this summer camp.
This is an activity to kind of demonstrate the life cycle of a salmon. Salmon I consider one of the most magnificent of nature's animals.
Remember Capture the Flag? Well, this game is called Hooks and Ladders. It begins with a discussion on salmon and their habitat, and then the teachers get to be salmon.
Okay. Now, does everybody understand what we're doing? We're starting here. We're going to go down river. We have a pretty quick shot, so we'll be able to just head to the ocean. We get to the ocean, we got to go back and forth 4 times, get 4 food chips. Once you get your 4 food chips, then you can start back up to your spawning habitat.
These guys standing in our imaginary river are predators, squawfish and the like, out to eat our little salmon smolts on their way to the ocean.
Go. Hey, now you can't get out of the river.
Can we walk?
Okay, quick, fisherman.
What side am I on? Get my watch.
Those who survive the squawfish in the river must avoid bigger predators in the ocean.
Don't be right in the waterfall. Let them jump. You gotta be
And then head back upstream and leap over the waterfall to the paper plates that represent their spawning habitat. Now, that was the old days of the salmon runs. Next, our salmon have to try the same route again, but this time it's the 20th century. And there's the added hazards of dams, commercial fishermen, and fish ladders.
Barging, they do all kinds of things to try to get them around the turbines. Unfortunately for you guys, you're going to have to go through the turbines. So we need some turbine runners. Go!
The salmon smolts must sprint through the swinging rope without being touched and then charge down our river to the ocean, where they encounter the slow but efficient commercial fishermen in their cardboard
She
boats.
can get you. Sure, you're got.
I already got her.
You're got.
No, we're over here.
Fish ladder. Fish ladder.
You know, this is a wonderful teaching experience because so many times we get so busy teaching that we forget to have fun. And the kids get the message because it's such a nice break, and they get the point across, and they get excited to learn. And that's when teaching becomes fun.
Now you guys can get here above the waterfall, right above the waterfall. Make them jump it and catch them when they come across it.
Those who survive
We're
the
getting
dangers
clear
of
from
the
spawning
ocean with their
habitat
food
here
chips
now.
in hand must attempt to climb the human fish ladder back to their spawning grounds without being tagged by more of those pesky fishermen lining the river. This game, hooks and ladders, like most of the Project Wild activities, are designed and developed by the teachers who attend these classes. The concept of Project Wild began here in the West and has expanded to include all 50 states, all the Canadian provinces, and countries in South America, Europe, and Asia.
There was a couple problems here, right? We had one survivor, and he was a
Cheater.
male.
He was a cheater.
Where was the big problem in the habitat? Did we run out of spawning habitat? Did we kill all the fish in the ocean? No. Where did the 30 minutes in the turbine, huh? Okay. We can go in. Now that we're all sweaty.
No, it's an excellent activity. It gets the teachers and the students involved, and they can see how it really happens instead of reading about it.
Didn't tell me to wear a swimming suit today.
The next day, the teachers get to come into close contact with one of those rare creatures, adult salmon, that survived the rigorous trip to and from the ocean and have returned to their spawning grounds in Idaho.
There you go.
This is the South Fork fish trap on the Salmon River. Here, biologists count, measure, and sort the returning salmon. But today, they're getting help from Project Wild teachers like Cheryl Riedinger.
That's a boy.
If a fish is missing an adipose fin, this means it was raised in one of Idaho's hatcheries and the salmon is kept for spawning. Most of the wild fish, like this one, are released back into the river to spawn naturally.
Come down in there and try to get him.
You gotta get him out and work his tail.
Turn him over. Can you take one? There you go.
So it was awesome to think that you had in your hands something that had went so many miles and was so wild that it had never been in a hatchery. So cool to release something like that that had come all that way.
Okay,
Get her over here.
I've got her backwards.
Right in there. There you go.
My fourth graders are going to absolutely be intrigued. They're going to be so thrilled with this. I can hardly wait.
It's this sort of enthusiasm from teachers that sparks a corresponding interest in our school children. And in the long run, it will be the wildlife that benefits.
And if the kids, the children of Idaho can appreciate what we have and what we're losing, maybe they can do something to reverse it. I think wildlife tells us a lot about us, and I think it's telling us a little bit about our quality of life and what we don't have. And I see these teachers going back to their classes and helping kids learn. I think that's got to be the most rewarding thing. They're turned on to learning. The kids get turned on to learning. What better reward is there than that?
Вид, в общем, достаточно обычный, но дело в том, что изучение этого вида помогает решать очень важные проблемы, связанные с экологией и охраной редчайших видов птиц.
Our Earth has been partitioned by mankind into artificial borders called countries. But for the natural world, rigid lines placed on maps do not exist. Nature does not acknowledge international borders, but those borders sometimes become barriers that affect both our wild animals and our Earth's ecology. But now some of these traditional barriers have been diminished. Recent political changes have opened up a dialogue between the former Soviet Union and the West. For ecologists in both camps, it's a welcome breakthrough and an invitation to work together to preserve the Earth we share. St. Basil's, Red Square, the changing of the guard at Lenin's tomb. These are the images of the Cold War so long imprinted on the minds of the American public. But the guards no longer march at Lenin's tomb, and what was once a hostile Russia has now become a country where the exchange of scientific information is welcome.
I not only think that it's important, I'm sure that it's extremely important. And in many cases, it may be a problem of surviving, if you want, because everything is developed so quickly now, and transformation of everything around us takes place so quickly that we simply don't have time enough to go through the whole normal sequence of the process of understanding of all these relationships only using our own experience. It's impossible today. And if we are ready to accept the fact that world is much smaller today, okay, we need to accept the paradigm of collaboration. It's the only choice for America, for Russia, for India, for, I don't know, for every country.
Russian Sergei Polozov speaks as a scientist and university professor in wildlife biology. But international cooperation is a topic he feels so strongly about, he agreed to host a new television show on the subject for air in both the former Soviet Union and down the road here in America. He and a colleague have come to Idaho to shoot a segment featuring the Snake River Birds of Prey National Conservation Area south of Boise.
Yeah, it's first of all about nature, about wildlife, about conservational issues. Simultaneously, it's about everything what connects human being as a species and our society as a society with the nature and with all environmental field. Thank you.
Sergei's view on international cooperation is shared by Mark Fuller, his Idaho host and director of the Raptor Research and Technical Assistance Center in Boise.
Some of the problems that we want to try to solve, the questions that we want to try to answer, are often better solved or more easily answered by looking elsewhere than just in our own country. And of course, people from other nations have different backgrounds, slightly different training, slightly different ideas, and it's always good to exchange ideas and compare our notes, if you will, with theirs. And it just helps us learn things faster.
Not with Canyon as itself, right?
The plan is to premiere this new television show in Russia and Eastern Europe in January 1997 on Russia's very first independent channel, and Idaho will be a part of that pilot program. Today, the crew is shooting a story on kestrels, the smallest of the birds of prey. Wildlife biologists are banding nestlings and trying to capture the parents by tethering an owl beneath the nest box. The adults perceive the owl as a threat to their young and should attempt to drive it off, and in the process become entangled in these surrounding nets. But it doesn't always work that way, and it looks like today will be one of those days.
Just a sec, Karen. Please wait a minute. Andrew will come now, okay? To shoot the whole procedure.
Sergei has been teaching wildlife biology at Concordia College in Portland, Oregon for the last 3 years as part of an exchange program. He says what surprised him most was how friendly Americans have been. A goal of this new television program is to help eliminate some of the stereotypes that exist for both Russians and Americans.
And they will smile. Russian never smile.
Oh, I've heard that.
Okay, ready. Stereotypes as themselves maybe due to the difficult economic situation in Russia, too many people think that America is a paradise. Everybody is rich, everything is perfect, everybody happy, what, as we know, is not true, and it's normal because life is life. птицы, которые гнездятся в искусственном гнездовье, ну, грубо говоря, в скворечнике. И последние слетки, которые вот в этот сезон будут окольцованы здесь сотрудниками.
What did he just say?
И в частности, вот это совершенно замечательный представитель.
Sergey tells us he explained the artificial nest box and the banding procedure, and then, contrary to our stereotype that Russians have no sense of humor, he ended with a humorous remark about the kestrel he was holding.
Okay. And some other things that this specific guy is much more polite than his sister, who was in the work 10 minutes ago and scratched me and bite me. We need to accept both sides. Both countries has pluses and minuses, good and bad, it's normal. But if we are really positively oriented one to another, we need to receive advantages of collaboration, supporting one another. And it's only the choice
let's show
practically everything what I'm doing here personally and what we are doing here with our show is for support of this collaboration.
Those are a bunch of weeds. There we go. Got a fish here for you. Yeah, it's a brown trout, probably about 10 or 11 inches.
Approximately 52,000 fish were caught last year from Barber Park on the east side of town, downriver to Glenwood Bridge, a distance of about 10 miles. Now, this is just a part of the reason the Boise River is considered one of the most successful urban fisheries in the United States. The rest is simple: good water, good access, and good fun.
Basically, what I want to do is get out here a little ways. I'm going to fish at least this first little riffle in here, then maybe go up where the geese just took off from and give that a try.
It's a warm summer evening, and Tom Governale of the Boise Parks and Recreation Department has just gotten off work. He's one of the many anglers who put in about 75,000 hours of fishing each year on this stretch of the Boise River.
Those are a bunch of weeds. There we go. Got a fish here for you. Ooh, there's a big one down there. Ooh, he's not on the end of my line, but there's a big one down there. This looks to be maybe a brown trout. Yeah, it's a brown trout, probably about 10 or 11 inches.
Brown trout, like this one, make up about 3% of the catch. The bulk of the fish caught on this stretch of the Boise River are rainbows.
We do quite a bit of fish stocking in here, and we get quite a bit of fishing pressure. We annually stock about 35,000 fish, rainbow trout out of our Nampa hatchery, throughout town year long, except for maybe the high flow season in the spring.
The return is tremendous. Dale says the stocking program costs the Idaho Department of Fish and Game approximately $18,000 annually. But studies show that each year, anglers spend about $1,270,000 locally on fishing trips to the Boise River.
A couple things make good urban fishery is availability to the fishery, and City of Boise's has done a good job. Long run, there's real good access along the river off the green belt, public access. Another part of urban fishery is the ability to put fish in front of people. You need to have a good stocking program to make an urban fishery work.
What's the fishing been like down here?
It's been all right. Last week, the river's catching them left and right.
But it's not just the prime fishing that draws people to the river after work. It's the whole quality of experience right in Boise's backyard.
It's neat, the wildlife down here. You see beaver at sunset. You'll periodically see mink scurrying across along the shoreline. Of course, you see a lot of herons and Canadian geese. You'll see fox once in a while. And in the wintertime, especially in the park center area, you'll see some deer along the river. And your best wildlife viewing's either early in the morning or later in the evening, just around sunset. It's amazing how much wildlife there is. A brown trout.
Tom's tiny mayfly has caught the attention of another brown trout. It's the same size as his earlier catch, about a 10-inch fish.
There's a lot of them in the river about this size, which is a good sign. That means the water quality has been good, and with the last couple years of high water, There's a lot of fish that age class, which means they had a high survival rate a couple of years ago. And that's really exciting for the fishermen in the Boise River.
Thanks for joining us. As we close our show tonight, we'll take you back to the Boise River, a treasure right downtown in Idaho's largest city, for fishermen seeking solitude and for floaters looking for fun.